The date is March 23rd, 1775. Patrick Henry is giving his famous historical speech at the Second Virginia Convention, which will turn the tides in the Revolutionary War, providing soldiers from Virginia to the war effort, where he utters his most famous phrase, "Give me liberty or give me death." Unless, of course, there's a war or something, because then, no liberty. I mean, you need security, to which everyone at the convention noddingly agreed. That's right. I mean, if there's a war, we got to have more security. And then he says, and not even war, like terrorism, because then, somebody could go out and do something. So, and everyone noddingly agrees. You're right. In terrorism, we can't have any liberty. And then he goes, and you know what else? Like, what if people are sick? Like like a plague or something. Yeah, if people are getting sick, no liberty. And everyone's like, yeah, that's a good point, right? And he says, okay, so give me liberty or give me death, unless there's war, maybe terror, and maybe there's a virus or something. And everyone says, hear, hear, and the convention comes to an end. That's exactly how it happened. No, not at all. He said, give me liberty or give me death, regardless of all of those things. And that's why it's a famous statement. And there are reasons why liberty won out. Authoritarianism does not work. And now we're getting tons of examples of just how stupid and insane our system is for adopting authoritarian measures to combat the coronavirus. Now, the coronavirus is a serious threat. We all acknowledge that. People absolutely need to be social distancing, stay at home, stay safe. But not everyone is doing this, and it's putting us at risk as a community. With our rights also comes responsibilities. And I think it's our responsibility to do what we have to do to protect each other. But does that justify the police breaking social distancing in order to cuff and arrest people who are minding their own business? No. You may have seen the story that went viral a few days, about last week, I believe. A guy was paddle boarding by himself in the ocean, and the Coast Guard came. He went ashore, and then he got arrested. Local police, I believe, then came and arrested him. Cuffing him, touching him without gloves or masks, violating social distancing in order to what? Make a point about somebody? When they started locking down all these states, it was not supposed to be implemented in this way. They were saying things like, you can still go out, you can still go shopping, go exercise, go for a walk the dog. Just don't come out in large groups. So why do we then see a dude minding his own business, paddleboarding, getting arrested? Some expert claimed that the virus was in the water, and the water was kicking up into the air, and then the virus was coming into it, you becoming an aerosol, and you could get infected. You couldn't pay me $1 million to go to the beach, she said. That is insane. Okay, you just made that up. I get it. A lot of people have been going to the beach and ignoring social distancing. And so they're trying to figure out a way to stop it. But when they implemented these lockdowns, which of course were never codified in law, it wasn't supposed to be that a dude with his daughter playing t-ball would be cuffed and put in the back of a cruiser. You're violating the actual spirit of the lockdown order in order to make some twisted point about people in a park. I have several stories for you that we're going to read through to show you exactly how this stuff fails. Authoritarianism doesn't work for several reasons. Someone will pass a law. They'll say, hey, this law makes sense. People shouldn't be in groups. We should be social distancing. And everyone says that makes sense. And then the police break social distancing, violating what was intended of the law to do something literal under the law. And there are many stories about this throughout history. We'll pass a law saying, well, we know this law is really meant to do these things. And then sure enough, what do we get? We get a literal interpretation which ignores why you actually need to do these things. Let's start with the first story. A man and his daughter and his wife, violating no ordinance, no law, doing nothing wrong. Dad actually gets cuffed, and I believe you can say to a degree arrested. He wasn't actually processed, but he was put in the back of the cruiser, cuffed, and then he was released. Amazing, isn't it? This is a story from Fox 31. They say man handcuffed in front of his daughter at Brighton Park for allegedly violating social distancing. Look at all these cops. Apparently there's a sign that said, you can't go to the park in groups of 4 or more. And the guy, his wife and his daughter are 3 people, and they're a family that live together. And look at all the cops that showed up to deal with this. Matt Mooney feels Brighton police owe him a huge apology. The 33-year-old said he was handcuffed at Donaldson Park in front of his 6-year-old daughter Sunday afternoon after police told him he violated the state's social distancing guidelines. Since when were we getting arrested for violating guidelines? I seem to recall a process of judicial oversight legislation where a law will be passed, and then we will, and there's oversight, there's a discussion, there's a debate, and a vote, perhaps, depending on how it's being implemented, not decree. But apparently now we're here. Is that it? That we're seeing local politicians just rule by decree, violating a guideline? Mooney told Fox 31 problem solvers he refused to provide his identification to 3 police officers because he was confident he wasn't doing anything unlawful playing t-ball with his wife and daughter in the park. She's like, Daddy, I don't want you to get arrested. At this point, I'm thinking there's no way they're going to arrest me. This is insane. I'm telling her, don't worry. Daddy's not going to get arrested. I've done nothing wrong. Don't worry about it. And then they arrest me. Yeah, as somebody from Chicago, man, it's kind of cute hearing someone be like, no, these cops aren't going to arrest me for no reason. I did nothing wrong. It's like, dude, authoritarianism, it doesn't work. But don't expect them to follow the actual rules. Or actually, I should put it this way. They'll follow the rules literally. It's not up to them to interpret necessarily. Former Brighton City Councilman Kirby Whalen recorded much of the incident on his cell phone, where you can hear his voice narrate the scene. He's being taken by the Brighton police for playing softball with his daughter in an empty park. In an interview with the problem solvers, Whalen said, I find it hard to believe with all the things going on in our communities, the only way to resolve a situation like that was to handcuff a father in front of his daughter. Now, it's called walking away. It's like you're just with 3 people, whatever, bye. There's a really funny video I watched. These people do these 2A audits, Second Amendment audits. And it's like this guy walking around with like an AR-15 and the cops pull up and he's all like, oh man, here they come. The cop stops him and says, I just want to check your weapon, sir. And the guy's giving him the business a little bit. He's like, I have a right to do this. And the cop's like, I know, I understand. The cop takes it. He looks at it, he checks it and says, I've determined it's not a fully auto weapon. You are entitled to carry this. I apologize for the inconvenience. And the guy's like, that's right. And then the cop was like, thank you for being out here. I support your rights. And the funny thing about this is there are a lot of people who have a knee-jerk reaction that every cop is the same way, that they're going to be a mindless drone, that they're going to come and be like, I don't care if you can't have that weapon. But no, in that instance, the cop was like, thanks for doing it. Appreciate it. You have your right to do so. I just got to check to make sure it wasn't full auto. You can argue that he wasn't allowed to, but no, I think police are allowed to reasonably stop and ask someone, hey, by the way, is that good? You're good. Okay. In this instance, you have the opposite. The cops could have walked up and been like, howdy, sir. How's it going? Playing softball? We got a call. Some people were concerned. Just the 3 of you? Have a go, man. Stay safe out there. That's it. That's all you needed to do. But apparently some people want to, I've seen these videos. Don't ask me why or how many. But it's insane to me. You see these videos. There was one guy who was like cleaning up trash outside of his apartment building. This went viral. And a cop demanded his ID and he was like, nope. He's like, I'm just cleaning up trash. I live here. And he ended up I think he got arrested or something for it. It's like, dude, at a certain point, you need to chill out and just walk away. What's the big deal? Guy's playing softball with his daughter. The sign at Donaldson Park said closed, but in smaller print reads, in groups of no more than 4 persons, parks remain open for walking, hiking, biking, running, and similar activities, which most people don't do in large groups anyway, so it's fine. Mooney was just there with his wife and daughter. He said it was the officers who were violating social distancing guidelines. During the contact, none of the officers had masks on. None of them had gloves on. And they're in my face handcuffing me. They're touching me. It's so stupid. If we're going to go ahead and start arresting people for no reason in front of their 6-year-old daughter, you're just going to cause more problems later on. Brighton police posted a vague statement on its Facebook page Sunday that made no mention of Matt Mooney or his arrest. Instead, it simply stated the Brighton Police Department is conducting an investigation into a situation that occurred late this afternoon at Donaldson Park. This is an active investigation, and so we are unable to provide additional information until the investigation is complete. You know what my problem is right now? In Philadelphia, okay, I'm in the suburbs, I'm not in the city proper. They're saying we're not going to arrest people for certain things. They're like, we're not going to arrest people for theft, for robbery, for, assault. They're like certain nonviolent offenses, like burglary, auto theft. They're going to delay arresting, they said. And this kind of policy is popping up all over the place. So you mean to tell me right now you are letting criminals out of jails, you are not arresting criminals, and you're cuffing a dude playing softball with his daughter? Authoritarianism doesn't work. This is exactly why. And we have this. I got more stories for you, man. NYPD's aggressive policing risks spreading the coronavirus. Yes, that's exactly the problem. When the police come out and start grabbing people instead of just saying like, go home, you're breaking the social distancing yourself, man. And now guess what? The NYPD, I believe around like 10 or so percent of the department. Oh no, it's more than that. It's like 14 or 15. They're out sick. Many of them actually have COVID. Now I get it. Some of these cops, they're doing a good job. I'm not here to claim that all cops are bad. That's insane. In fact, it is the small minority, in my opinion, that ends up doing these stupid things. Because you can see the videos of people walking around New York talking to cops. I think Project Veritas had something out. And the cops are chill, man. If you've ever been to New York, for the most part, it's kind of chill. But there are certain circumstances where things get out of hand. And one of the mistakes a lot of people make when dealing with police is they assume the cops know everything they do. And they don't. So if a cop comes up and he was told something and all he knows is this guy might be dangerous, don't be surprised if they're aggressive or angry or anxious or scared or something like that. So you gotta understand how to deal with these things. And there's a line. When it comes to a false arrest or being detained or something like that, unfortunately, the number one rule you do is you don't speak, you shut up, you get your lawyer, you do it right. But in the immediate, you only make things worse by, getting into a fight, by screaming and yelling and swearing. You gotta figure out how to navigate the situations. It's messed up. Your rights are being violated, but you want to try and win the long game. And so a lot of people can't think ahead. And I talk about this problem all the time. But if you're being wrongly arrested, keep your mouth shut, call your lawyer, and then fight back through the smart, strategic way to do things. I understand there's principle behind it. A lot of people want to get up and scream and say, you can't do this. And I didn't do anything wrong. But even though this guy says I didn't do anything wrong, they still arrested him. Now, I don't know if he was, what exactly happened, but it does sound like an arrest. He was cuffed, put in the car. You don't necessarily have to be processed at a station to be arrested. So we can see this, but there's some funnier stories here. Check this out. Illinois town mayor is shocked after sending cops to break up parties amid coronavirus lockdown only to find his wife at one of them. You know what, man? I don't know what the solutions are, because right now we've got loaded trains in New York City. And cops aren't going out there and doing anything. Why not? There's a video of a drone flying around New York saying, please keep within 6 feet away from people. The problem with authoritarianism is that you end up with a small group of people or an individual who thinks he knows better than the collective. You have a small committee or a body that says, we're going to do these things. We're not going to let people choose for themselves. And when you do that, you're basically shutting down a decentralized network, which is substantially smarter than you. It's the same thing whether it's economics or the law, for the most part, in my opinion. More freedom within reason is better. Now, of course, we have to restrict certain things. And I think government does a fairly decent job in certain areas. If somebody commits a crime, then we go and, they're held accountable to whatever extent they can be held accountable. But when you have an authoritarian system that says, just go out and arrest everybody, just if they're out, we're going to arrest them. Well, then the system can't sustain itself. It'll just cease to exist. That's when you get people revolting and going crazy and breaking things down because the system has become too much to bear. In this instance, this guy's wife was at a party and then he actually had to apologize. He said, I am embarrassed by this incident and apologize to the citizens of Alton for any embarrassment this incident may have caused our city. You know what? I don't know what to tell you, man. No one gave you the right to shut down parties. We have a right to assemble. We have a right to worship, a right to the free press. And already all of that is being quashed. What you're watching right now on YouTube, for instance, YouTube has announced they're going to be banning content that talks about a certain thing. I can't even say it. A certain cellular technology. And if I actually talk about what it is, YouTube will suppress and demonetize this video. If a private, entity is taking over the commons where we have our conversations and communicate, well, then we got a serious problem with our rights being eroded. And this is exactly what happens. There are so many examples of the failures of authoritarianism. It's mind-boggling that people would still try to implement these things. Maybe someone should have told these people and give them an explanation. But you know what? It's the simple solution. It's the easy answer. That's why they always do it. Because humans don't learn and they don't plan ahead. Obviously, humans learn, but many people don't. It's because people live one life with one life experience. They tend to default to the same mistakes we make in the past. You cannot come out and just start doing these things. Someone tweeted, do you want a boogaloo? Because this is how you get a boogaloo. You go around arresting a dad playing softball with his daughter. Granted, it has to get more extreme, but I'm reminded of V for Vendetta. You ever see V for Vendetta? At the end, when the little girl is skipping wearing a mask and the cop shoots her, and then the people snap and they just end up coming up beating the crap out of the cop. That's what happens. There are limits. Now, we as Americans, our limits are we got short fuses. We very much are don't F with me, leave me alone. Our culture is built on it. We're the descendants of people who said, don't you dare. Don't tread on me. I suppose I should say this. I believe the Gadsden flag was like a Revolutionary War flag. So we're descendants of this. Over in Europe, not so much. I actually was thinking about why it is that Americans love freedom so much, and even to this day. And I do think it's deeply ingrained in our culture. But take a look at the people in Europe who went off to the New World versus the people who stayed. The people who stayed there were probably either too poor to do it or were fine with it. But then there were indentured servants, and there were colonists who were like, I would rather live in the wilderness than be here being told what I can or can't do. So the people who came here said, I will find something new and better, and I will do what I want. You can't tell me what to do. And then we declared a revolution because of it. I don't care what you say. I'll do what I want. And our culture is built upon it. So there are some countries where you watch, like in the Philippines, you had the Duterte. I think he's like, the president or something. He said, shoot people who break quarantine. There are a lot of people whose culture is rooted in that. Like in China, there's a lot of people who just don't speak up and don't speak out, and they get disappeared if they do. In America, our fuses are much shorter. You start treading on us like this too much, and people are just going to say, you know what? F it. And they're going to do whatever they want. And that's one of the reasons why we have a Second Amendment, because people are going to straight up tell you to your face. So I'll read this one. I won't keep this one too long. But as you can see, this coming out and screeching about, social distancing and other people, the policing in this heavy-handed way doesn't actually solve any of the problems. It makes them worse. But I will leave with one final thought. Florida man, assaulted female Dollar Tree cashier over social distancing argument, police say. We have another, I don't much care for this story in its entirety, but the point I want to make is a lot of the arrests that are happening are because people are snitching on each other. Because we do have people who love to just be like, ooh, they're out. And apparently in New Zealand, the 911, they had this service to rat on your neighbor for breaking social distancing. It was shut down because it was too popular. People love it. There was a party in New Jersey and all the neighbors called and they were like, they shouldn't be doing this. Oh, tattletales. People love being the panopticon. They love being the problem. The problem with government is the collective just desire for power from people, and they want to exert that over other people. It's cancel culture times a million. It's not going to work, and it's bad. I hope you enjoyed this segment and my joke. I hope you enjoyed the bit I did about Patrick Henry. I will see you all at 4 p.m. youtube.com/Timcast. It's my main channel. It's a different channel from this one. Thanks for hanging out.